NFL Talk with Elite Wages.
Yo, yo, yo! Hello and welcome to another episode of NFL Talk of Elite Wages. I am Elite Wages. This is my episode for NFL Week 8. We're 8 weeks into the NFL season. I'm going to start this episode off with my NFL Week 7 recap. And we'll go through everything that I played last week and all my wins and all my losses. I feel like I had a very good read on a lot of games last week. But essentially, it got a bit tight towards the end of the week. But we ended up with a win, so that's the good thing. So I'm going to run through all those now. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, we had Broncos and the Saints over 36.5, which cashed. But then we lost on Bo Nix over 199.5 passing yards. That was a little bit of a stretch at plus 120 on the line there, but I thought it was a very good read. Disappointed that Bo Nix couldn't get this done, considering he's consistently been able to throw for 200 yards this season. The game script didn't really go to plan. The Broncos jumped out to a big lead, never looked back. Passing game wasn't needed as much as I had anticipated, and they were able to utilise their run game, and obviously their run game hasn't been their strong suit, so it's probably a good thing for them to be able to get that going. A bit of confidence in the running back room. As for the over, that got exceptionally close. You cannot get close on an over, so the Broncos did the majority of the scoring. Their offense was helped out by their defense as they scored a defensive touchdown in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, we were able to get the cash from this bet, thanks to a garbage time touchdown from New Orleans. I think it was the last couple of minutes. New Orleans got their first touchdown and their only touchdown of the game, which helped us cash the over 36.5. So Thursday Night Football, 1-on-1, not too bad. Could have been better, but we'll take it. Next play was in the Lions and Vikings game. That was a hell of a game. It was a really, really good game to watch. Really, really exciting team to watch is Detroit Lions at the moment. So I had their team total over 23.5. In my opinion, it was just way too low. If I ever see this total at that low of a number again for the Lions, I will no doubt be betting it again. So if you see the Lions around 23 again, you automatically know I'm going to be betting it that week anyway. So watch out for those. The Lions, they cashed this early in the third quarter, looked comfortable throughout the game. Had this play cashed pretty much how I predicted in last week's episode, and added a bonus for this game was handing the Vikings their first loss of the season. So that's a bit of NFC North rivalry there for me as a Packers fan. That division is very, very tight, but yeah, cashed the Lions team total over 23.5. The next game was in the Packers game, so it was Packers versus Texans, and I had over 3.5 passing touchdowns. Now, this one didn't win, but it had legs all the way through this game. So Jordan Love, he did his job. He threw for 3 passing touchdowns. And before the game, last week's episode, I predicted Jordan Love would get at least 2. So with him scoring 3, you think it's a no-brainer that CJ Stroud is going to come into this game and he's going to score 1. But he didn't. Jordan Love could have had more passing touchdowns. He had a lot of opportunities to get it into the end zone, and a few penalties, a few drop passes and things like that prevented him from doing so. As for the Texans, CJ Stroud, he just didn't show up in this game, which was something I did not expect. I thought for sure Stroud would always have at least thrown for 1 touchdown. Instead, he handed it off for Mixon in both red zone scores for the Texans. And honestly, I was disappointed to get not to cash this one. I thought it was a very good read before the game. And again, like I said, if Jordan Love throws 3, I'm pretty sure that CJ Stroud would score 1 in any other game. So disappointing loss in this one. On to the next one. There's another loss. Falcons and Seahawks both to score 20 plus. Again, another one that I thought had legs. A disappointing loss, especially when I was actually toying between the over, which would have cashed, and this bet, which it was a consistent trend for both teams to start the year to score 20. Like, both teams have been doing that consistently. So Seahawks managed to score 34. No sweat for their half of the bet. Their defense played a really nice game, scoring a fumble recovery for a touchdown. They had 2 interceptions as well. The Falcons just couldn't find the end zone as much as I was expecting. And honestly, the Seahawks did a good job, and they did a better job than I was expecting. Which is obviously the main reason why they took the loss in this, or I took the loss in this one. Next bet, another loss. This is probably the hardest one of the week. I had the Panthers and Commanders over 51, and that was a loss. But I'm going to be honest, when Jaden Daniels went down very, very early in this game, I thought the bet was dead anyway. I thought it was going to be a real struggle. Marcus Mariota, he hasn't played in a long time, but he came in, he threw a touchdown. Robertson scored a touchdown. Commanders D got themselves a pick six. The Commanders score over half of this total in the first half on their own, so they scored 27 in the first half. The Commanders cashed their team total with ease, which is another play I was looking at in this game, and decided for this one instead. Realistically, we needed a lot of help from Dalton and the Panthers for this total to hit. We came very close in the end. Obviously, the Panthers scored their touchdown, and then Marcus Mariota, he did have an opportunity in the end to throw it into the end zone, but instead they went for a field goal. So if he would have thrown for the touchdown, we would have potentially had a push. But yeah, he went for the field goal, and it ended with 47 points. So we took another tough loss. That was a tough one, I'm not gonna lie. I'd have liked to cash that one, but well, honestly, I thought the Panthers would have helped in this total, but I was wrong. So moving on to the next one, this is a double cash in the same game. So it's in the Eagles and Giants game. I really, really liked the read on Barkley. So I had Saquon Barkley over 83.5 rushing yards. He actually ended with over, I think it was 176 rushing yards in the game. So it's another bet that went pretty much exactly how I predicted. So he showed what his former team was missing, what they could have had, what they should have had, and what the Eagles have now got. The game script went absolutely our way as well, with the Giants really struggling in this game. So the Eagles looked very dominant, and they used their run game a lot because of the struggle from the New York Giants. They led early, didn't look back, and yet again Barkley was able to get his yardage in. I made an ad in this game which was posted on the Discord quite early last week. I didn't have time for it in last week's episode though, so I think it was Saturday night. I think I posted it in the Discord. I've been searching through these games and I found the Giants over 2.5 sacks, which cashed as well. So they actually ended with 4, so that cashed fairly easy. I mentioned big Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy as he calls himself. I mentioned him, he's going to get 1. He actually got 2. So the Giants defense, they've been looking good in the sack department, and the Eagles have struggled to keep Hurts upright. So yeah, again, ended up being a no-brainer. Cashed both plays, went 2-0 in this game. But again, that's a reminder that everyone needs to get in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, you need to get in the Discord. Myself and Daily College Football Basketball Bets, we do a lot of things on the Discord where we post early lines, early plays, things like that. So if you're not in there, you need to get in there, take advantage of our information and knowledge. Knowledge equals power. So yeah, get in there. So my next one was Sunday Night Football, and that was the New York Jets. Well, it was in the New York Jets game. I actually went with Breece Hall over 24.5 receiving yards, which turned out to be the most easy bet of probably the weekend. I mentioned last week how I thought Aaron Rodgers was looking better, especially on his previous 5 games as a Jet. In terms of him getting players involved, and to be honest, I was right. I was right in that aspect anyway. But he's not looked anywhere near the player he was in Green Bay. He's thrown 7 interceptions, 6 of which have been in the last 3 weeks. And honestly, this can't be happening if the Jets are expected to be a contender. Luckily for me, I didn't need the Jets to win. I didn't need Aaron Rodgers to do anything special. I just needed Hall to collect passes from Aaron Rodgers, and that's exactly what happened. I expected Rodgers to face a lot of pressure. I expected him to want to get the ball out quick using, Hall on checkdowns or little slants and things like that. And just to get him out of trouble really, and that's what happened as well. We actually had this bet cashed in the second drive of the game for the Jets. Hall received over 30 passing yards in 2 passes, back-to-back passes, in their first touchdown drive in the first quarter. So easy cash. Hall went on and finished he had 6 receptions for 103 yards, and again, it's a sweat-free cash in this one. something small to add. It's actually really, really crazy that the Jets led 15-13 at halftime and didn't score a single point in the second half. But then again, they allowed the Steelers 24 points in the second half, which was the ultimate reason why they lost. I think it's a crazy stat if you look at it like that. And then we go to our final play on Monday Night Football. There's two games. I decided to go with the Ravens game. I went with Derrick. I did a small little same game parlay, so I went with Derrick Henry over 74.5 rushing yards and to score a touchdown. That was at plus 115, so another plus money play. And Derrick Henry did it again, so he cashed us out for the week. He ensured we finished with some nice profit. Admittedly, very nervous after the first half. Henry only had 3 carries on 13 offensive snaps, but after the second half, leading majority of the game meant the game script landed in our favour. They leaned on Derrick Henry, as they always do in the run department, and he ended up with 169 rushing yards. He was actually able to cash the rushing yard line from our bet in one explosive play. He rushed for 81 yards on one carry. The touchdown was the sweatiest part of this bet, and it actually came late in the game, late in the end of the fourth quarter. Lamar Jackson threw his 5th touchdown pass to Derrick Henry on his only reception of the game, and Derrick Henry takes us home, and we cash another bet, and we have another winning NFL betting card this week. So just to go through it again, I finished 6-4. I think it is 6-4 for plus 1.52 units. So nothing drastic, but profit is profit, and we love a bit of profit. Broncos Saints over 36.5 cashed. Bo Nix over 199.5 passing yards did not cash. Lions team total over 23.5 cashed. Packers and Texans over 3.5 passing touchdowns did not cash. Falcons Seahawks both scored 20 did not cash. Panthers Commanders over 51 did not cash. But then we end with Barkley over 83.5 rushing yards, which cashed. Giants over 2.5 sacks cashed. Breece Hall over 24.5 receiving yards cashed. Derrick Henry over 74.5 rushing yards and a touchdown cash. So again, plus 1.52 units on the day, and we'll take that and we'll run into this next Thursday night football play for NFL Week 8.
Thursday Night Football.
We've got a matchup which is a fairly decent matchup. So last week's Broncos and Saints game wasn't the heavy hitters that we all wanted, but this week's game is certainly a much more improved game to be watching on Thursday night, and that's going to be the Minnesota Vikings v the LA Rams. The LA Rams, they've struggled to start the season. They've gone 2-4 in their first 6 games, but they've been able to keep the majority of their losses within one score. The bye week sort of came at the right time for them this season, suffering back-to-back losses. They had their bye week, and then coming out of their bye week, they got a huge win against the Raiders. The Rams, they've been without Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and they were expected to be one of the best wide receiver duos in the league this season, and obviously suffered those injuries, which is a huge blow for their offense, and their absence has been felt across the team. Despite being without their 2 main offensive threats in the pass game, Stafford has still managed to throw for an average of 232 passing yards per game. If you add to Stafford, his nice precise ball placement, if you add to that Kyren Williams in the run game, he hasn't really had success in terms of big yardage numbers like Barkley or Henry, but what he has been able to do has been key for the Rams. Kyren Williams is averaging 73 yards per game on the ground, and he's now scored a touchdown in 8 straight games. I think it's 9 straight games now, and he already has 9 this season as well. He's been their workhorse and their go-to guy when they're in desperate need of yardage. Unfortunately, this week for Kyren and the LA Rams, they will now face one of the best run Ds in the league, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings allow the 2nd least rushing yards per game, the 2nd least rushing touchdowns per game, and the 5th least yards per carry on average. One thing that the Rams rely on Williams for is those short yardage power runs to gain a first down, which again the Vikings are the best in the league at defending. The Vikings do struggle to defend in the pass game. They allow the 3rd most passing yards per game and averaging just under 2 touchdowns allowed per game. But they've only really been exploited by a few quarterbacks. Jordan Love threw for 389 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Jared Goff last week, he threw for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think Brock Purdy, he had over 300 yards as well. But, in terms of Love and Jared Goff, both of those two rank inside the top 10. Something that Matt Stafford does not. Getting Cooper Kupp back this game will help improve things for the Rams. But in my opinion, it won't. I don't believe it'll make too much of a difference on the scoreboard. The Vikings, they were on a 6-game win streak before losing to the Lions last week. The Vikings still find themselves as the top team in the NFC, as well as being a top offense scoring team, ranking 6th in average points per game with 28 on average. And they also rank 6th for least points allowed per game, averaging only 17. I believe this is an ideal spot for a bounce back for the Vikings after that disappointing loss to their divisional rivals, the Lions. As I mentioned, the Vikings' toughest 2 opponents have been the Lions and the Packers so far this season, and I don't believe the Rams are anywhere near the same level of those 2 teams. The Vikings own a plus 61 point differential, whereas the Rams have a minus 40. The Vikings also own the best EPA in the league, and I don't think it's any question that they're still an elite team this season. Everything in this game screams to me of a Vikings win. Every kind of stat leans the way of the Vikings, so I don't think we should overthink it. I think we should just simply roll with the better and the more consistent team this season. The Vikings have won by 4 or more in 3 of the last 5 wins, with one of those coming by 3 points and the last winning by 2. So I feel comfortable taking Vikings minus 3. So we're going to go 1 unit, Minnesota Vikings minus 3 at 1.9 odds. And, since it's Thursday Night Football, why not add another play, eh? Let's go for another one. So last week on Thursday Night Football, I cashed the game prop, but I fell short on the player prop. So I'm going to try and avenge that loss with another player prop, and more in particular, another passing player prop. This one's, it's a little bit of a punt, but with the correct game script and welcoming Cooper Kupp back into the starting lineup, I believe it's achievable. Matt Stafford, his passing yard line has been set at 235.5. He's actually only hit this line twice. Week 1 against the Lions and Week 5 against the Packers. And if you notice, they're both NFC North teams, so they're going to be facing another NFC North team this week. And that team, obviously the Minnesota Vikings, allow the 3rd most passing yards in the NFL. In fact, the Vikings have allowed an opposing quarterback to throw for 236 or more yards in 4 out of their 5 games, but it has to be noted, one of those games that went under was the Texans. They threw for 258 as a team in their matchup. CJ Stroud was obviously hooked early due to being down big, but if he would have stayed in the game, he would have had over 236. As a result of these results, the Vikings are allowing an average of 260 passing yards per game. Stafford and the LA Rams throw up the 10th most passing plays in the league, using a pass play on 58% of snaps. As I mentioned in the Vikings minus 3.5 can't get the word out. As I mentioned in the Vikings minus 3 bet selection, the Vikings lead the Rams in most statistical categories. I believe the Vikings will win this game by a field goal or more, but when you take into account the Vikings point differential of plus 61, the Rams minus 40, the Vikings could lead majority of this game, which would be a perfect game script for Stafford to try and throw the Rams back into this game. So we're going to go for the second play, which is 1 unit on Matt Stafford over 235.5 passing yards at odds of 1.9. So that'll do us for this episode. This was obviously my NFL Week 7 recap and Week 8 Thursday Night Football plays. 2 plays again this week, hopefully 2 cashes. As always, appreciate everyone for listening this long, listening to the end, catching the plays, hopefully tailing the plays as well. Let me know in the comments if you are going to be tailing or what you are playing, what you're liking for Thursday Night Football. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the breakdown for last week, if you're not in the Discord, you need to get in the Discord. A lot of lines and things like that are moving around. Post a lot in throughout the week. 24-hour chat, 24/7. Always someone speaking in that chat. And appreciate everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, forward, share. Join me on all socials. Follow me on all socials. TikTok, Twitter. This is available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube. Anywhere you get your your podcast from. So make sure you don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you later in a couple of days. Hopefully Friday for the rest of my NFL Week 8 card. See you later.